Some towns become famous for beautiful landmarks or booming economies. Others earn reputations they'd rather leave behind. Across Ohio, there are communities that have spent years battling headlines about crime, economic decline, political controversies, corruption, or other challenges that shaped how outsiders see them. In many cases, the reputation has become so deeply rooted that simply mentioning the town's name immediately sparks strong opinions. But reputations don't always tell the whole story. Behind every negative headline are hardworking families, local businesses, and residents trying to improve the place they call home. Some towns on this list are actively rebuilding after decades of industrial decline, while others continue fighting stereotypes created by events that happened years ago. Today, we're counting down the 12 most hated Ohio towns based on their long-standing public reputation, recurring criticism, and the controversies that have kept them in the spotlight. And according to countless online discussions and local opinions, one town near the top of this list is so controversial that some residents wish people would simply stop talking about it. Let's begin with number 12. Number 12, East Cleveland. East Cleveland has spent decades fighting one of the most difficult reputations of any community in Ohio. Located directly east of Cleveland, the city was once considered an attractive suburb where beautiful early 20th century homes, tree-lined streets, and a growing middle class represented prosperity. During its peak, thousands of families chose East Cleveland because it offered convenient access to downtown jobs while maintaining the feel of a quiet residential community. Elegant neighborhoods, historic architecture, and active commercial districts made the city one of the region's most desirable places to live. That image began to change after the decline of Northeast Ohio's manufacturing economy. As factories closed and major employers reduced their workforce, many residents moved elsewhere in search of better opportunities. Businesses followed the population, leaving behind empty storefronts and shrinking tax revenues. With fewer resources available, maintaining public services became increasingly difficult. Roads deteriorated, abandoned properties multiplied, and city officials struggled to keep up with the growing number of vacant buildings. Over time, these visible signs of decline became impossible to ignore. Crime played a major role in shaping East Cleveland's reputation. For years, reports involving violent offenses, burglaries, and property crimes frequently appeared in local and national news coverage. Although crime rates have fluctuated over time and numerous neighborhoods remain peaceful, the city's overall image became closely associated with public safety concerns. Many Ohio residents who have never actually visited East Cleveland know it only through alarming headlines and crime statistics, creating a perception that often overshadows the experiences of people who call the city home. Financial instability further damaged the city's reputation. East Cleveland has repeatedly faced budget crises, staffing shortages, and questions about its long-term sustainability. Discussions about possible mergers with neighboring Cleveland occasionally resurfaced as officials searched for solutions to ongoing financial challenges. Stories involving government investigations, administrative disputes, and infrastructure problems reinforced the idea that the city was struggling on multiple fronts at once. Despite these challenges, many residents believe East Cleveland receives far more criticism than it deserves. Community organizations regularly organize neighborhood cleanups, youth programs, and housing restoration projects designed to improve living conditions. Historic churches continue serving as important community centers, while volunteers work tirelessly to preserve the city's architectural heritage. Residents often point out that countless families quietly go about their daily lives without experiencing the dramatic situations portrayed in the media. Even so, changing public opinion has proven extremely difficult. Years of negative headlines have created an image that continues to influence how outsiders view the city. For many Ohioans, East Cleveland has become synonymous with urban decline, making it one of the state's most criticized communities despite the ongoing efforts of residents determined to rebuild its future. Number 11, Portsmouth. Nestled along the Ohio River in the southern part of the state, Portsmouth once stood as a proud industrial city, supported by steel production, shoe manufacturing, and river commerce. During much of the 20th century, factories provided stable employment, local businesses flourished, and neighborhoods were filled with working families who expected the city's prosperity to continue for generations. The river served as both an economic lifeline and a symbol of opportunity, helping transform Portsmouth into an important regional center. Like many manufacturing communities across the Midwest, Portsmouth's fortunes changed dramatically as industries declined. Factory closures eliminated thousands of jobs, forcing many younger residents to relocate in search of employment. Population steadily decreased, businesses closed their doors, and sections of downtown began showing the effects of long-term economic hardship. Empty commercial buildings and aging infrastructure gradually replaced the bustling activity that had once defined the city. Portsmouth's reputation suffered even more during the opioid epidemic. National media outlets frequently highlighted the community as one of the hardest-hit cities in America during the height of the prescription drug crisis. Investigative reports documented the devastating effects addiction had on families, healthcare systems, law enforcement, and local businesses. Images from those reports spread across the country, leaving many people to associate Portsmouth almost exclusively with opioid abuse, rather than its long history or cultural heritage. The constant national attention created frustration among residents who felt their hometown had been unfairly defined by one chapter of its history. Local officials, healthcare workers, churches, and nonprofit organizations invested enormous effort into addiction recovery programs, prevention initiatives, and community support services. Many people worked tirelessly to help individuals overcome addiction while simultaneously trying to attract new businesses and improve economic opportunities. In recent years, Portsmouth has focused heavily on revitalization. Historic buildings have been restored, murals celebrating local history decorate downtown streets, festivals attract visitors throughout the year, and the city's riverfront has become a popular destination for recreation. Tourism centered around local history, art, and nearby natural attractions has also grown, providing hope that the city's image can gradually improve. Nevertheless, Portsmouth continues to battle a reputation shaped by years of difficult headlines. Mention the city's name almost anywhere in Ohio, and many people immediately think about addiction and economic decline before considering its history, scenic riverfront, or ongoing recovery efforts. That lingering perception keeps Portsmouth among the Ohio towns most frequently criticized by outsiders. Number 10. Youngstown. Youngstown's reputation is deeply connected to one of the most significant economic collapses in modern American history. For generations, the city thrived because of its steel industry. Massive mills employed tens of thousands of workers, neighborhoods expanded rapidly, and local businesses prospered thanks to the steady flow of industrial wages. Families built entire lives around steel production, believing the industry would continue supporting the community indefinitely. Everything changed on September 19, 1977, a day locals still remember as Black Monday. On that day, Youngstown Sheet and Tube announced the closure of one of its largest steel plants, instantly eliminating thousands of jobs. Additional mill closures followed over the next several years, creating a devastating economic domino effect throughout the region. Businesses that depended on steel workers lost customers, unemployment soared, and countless families were forced to leave the city in search of new opportunities. The population decline that followed transformed Youngstown's landscape. Entire neighborhoods gradually emptied, leaving behind abandoned homes, vacant lots, and deteriorating commercial districts. Schools closed as enrollment dropped, while many once busy streets became noticeably quieter. National publications frequently used photographs of abandoned factories and crumbling buildings to illustrate the decline of America's Rust Belt, placing Youngstown at the center of discussions about industrial collapse. The city's image was further complicated by decades of organized crime activity that attracted significant media attention. Investigations involving corruption, gambling operations, and criminal organizations added another layer to Youngstown's reputation, reinforcing the perception that the city faced challenges beyond economic decline alone. Although many of these issues belong largely to the past, the stories remain deeply embedded in public memory. In recent decades, Youngstown has worked hard to reinvent itself. Healthcare, higher education, logistics, and technology have become increasingly important parts of the local economy. Youngstown State University continues attracting students from across the region, while new businesses and redevelopment projects aim to breathe life into former industrial areas. Community leaders have also invested in improving neighborhoods, supporting entrepreneurs, and restoring historic landmarks. Even with these improvements, Youngstown continues to carry the weight of its history. For many people across Ohio and beyond, the city's name still evokes images of abandoned steel mills, empty neighborhoods, and economic hardship. Residents often argue that this outdated perception ignores the city's resilience and the progress made over the past several decades, but changing such a deeply rooted reputation remains an ongoing challenge. Number 9. Middletown. Positioned between Cincinnati and Dayton, Middletown developed into one of Ohio's important manufacturing centers during the 20th century. The city's economy revolved around major steel production, paper manufacturing, and other industrial employers that offered stable careers for thousands of local families. Prosperous neighborhoods expanded around the factories, schools grew rapidly, and downtown businesses benefited from a strong working-class economy that appeared secure for decades. As manufacturing jobs gradually disappeared, Middletown experienced many of the same struggles seen throughout the American Rust Belt. Factory layoffs reduced household incomes, younger generations increasingly moved elsewhere, and local businesses faced declining customer demand. Population growth slowed before eventually reversing, leaving parts of the city searching for new economic opportunities after years of industrial dependence. Middletown became nationally recognized after serving as the backdrop for discussions about the struggles facing America's working class. Books, documentaries, and political campaigns frequently reference the city when examining issues such as declining manufacturing employment, economic inequality, substance abuse, and changing family dynamics. While this attention brought national recognition, it also reinforced a narrative that emphasized hardship more than progress. Many residents have expressed frustration with the way outsiders perceive their city. They argue that Middletown has become unfairly portrayed as a symbol of decline while receiving little credit for the improvements made over recent years. Investments in parks, downtown redevelopment, small businesses, and community events have helped create new opportunities. Yet these positive developments rarely receive the same level of attention as older stories about economic struggles. The city has also focused on attracting new industries beyond traditional manufacturing. Distribution centers, healthcare providers, educational institutions, and advanced manufacturing companies have created new employment opportunities, although replacing the scale of the former industrial economy remains a difficult task. Local leaders continue promoting redevelopment projects aimed at encouraging business growth and improving quality of life for residents. Despite ongoing efforts to reshape its future, Middletown continues to battle an image formed largely by its economic hardships and national political symbolism. Mention the city's name in many parts of Ohio, and conversations often focus on factory closures, declining industries, or social challenges rather than the determined residents working to build a stronger community. That lasting perception has earned Middletown a place among the most criticized towns in the state. Number 8. Lima. Lima has long carried a reputation that divides opinion across Ohio. Located in the northwestern part of the state, the city was once a booming industrial center fueled by oil discoveries, manufacturing, and heavy industry. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Lima experienced rapid growth after large oil reserves were discovered nearby. Refineries, factories, and railroads transformed what had been a relatively small community into a thriving city where employment opportunities attracted workers from across the region. For decades, industrial success allowed neighborhoods to flourish, businesses to expand, and families to build stable lives. As the American manufacturing sector changed, Lima began experiencing many of the economic problems that affected numerous Midwestern cities. Several factories reduced operations, others shut down entirely, and thousands of manufacturing jobs gradually disappeared. While important employers like the Lima Army Tank Plant continued operating and remained a significant source of employment, they could not fully replace the broad industrial base that had once supported the local economy. Population growth slowed, young residents increasingly moved elsewhere for better career opportunities, and parts of the city began showing signs of long-term economic decline. Crime became one of the biggest factors contributing to Lima's negative reputation. Local news reports frequently covered shootings, drug investigations, burglaries, and violent incidents that reinforced public concerns about safety. Certain neighborhoods developed reputations for higher crime rates, leading many Ohio residents to associate the entire city with criminal activity, even though numerous residential areas remain peaceful and family-oriented. Like many cities, crime tends to be concentrated in specific locations, but public perception often paints the entire community with the same brush. Lima also struggled with issues related to drug trafficking and substance abuse. During the opioid crisis, local law enforcement agencies devoted significant resources to combating illegal drug distribution and addressing addiction within the community. Public officials regularly discussed the challenges created by overdoses, repeat offenders, and strained emergency services. These problems frequently attracted media attention, adding another layer to the city's already difficult reputation. Economic hardship also left visible marks throughout Lima. Vacant commercial buildings, aging neighborhoods, and underutilized industrial sites reminded residents of better times when factories operated around the clock. Although downtown revitalization projects have introduced new restaurants, entertainment venues, and public improvements, many visitors still notice areas that have not fully recovered from decades of economic decline. Residents often argue that Lima deserves far more recognition for its strengths. The city hosts annual festivals, supports local colleges, maintains attractive parks, and benefits from a strong sense of community among longtime residents. The nearby Ottawa Metro Park and restored downtown district provide examples of the progress made in recent years. Local businesses continue investing in redevelopment, while community organizations work to improve neighborhoods and encourage economic growth. Despite these efforts, Lima remains one of those Ohio cities whose reputation often arrives before visitors do. Mention its name in conversations across the state, and many people immediately think of crime, struggling industries, and economic hardship rather than the community's ongoing efforts to build a brighter future. Number 7. Canton. Canton is internationally recognized as the home of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but beyond football, the city has spent decades trying to overcome a much less flattering reputation. During much of the 20th century, Canton was a thriving manufacturing hub, where steel production, machinery, and industrial companies created thousands of well-paying jobs. The city's economy supported a growing middle class, vibrant neighborhoods, and a busy downtown filled with locally owned businesses. The decline of American manufacturing dramatically changed Canton's economic landscape. Major employers downsized or closed entirely, reducing employment opportunities and contributing to population decline. As residents relocated for work, commercial districts struggled, tax revenues decreased, and maintaining older neighborhoods became increasingly difficult. Vacant storefronts and aging infrastructure slowly replaced the economic optimism that had once defined the city. Crime concerns have consistently influenced Canton's public image. While many neighborhoods remain safe and welcoming, certain areas have experienced elevated rates of violent crime, theft, and drug-related offenses over the years. Local news coverage of shootings and police investigations often receives widespread attention, leading outsiders to believe that the entire city faces the same level of danger. Residents frequently argue that this perception ignores the many stable communities that exist throughout Canton. The city has also battled challenges related to poverty. Economic inequality became more visible as industrial employment declined, leaving some neighborhoods struggling with lower household incomes, deteriorating housing, and limited investment. Community leaders have acknowledged that reducing poverty remains one of Canton's most important long-term goals, requiring continued investment in education, workforce development, and economic diversification. Ironically, one of Canton's greatest strengths has also overshadowed other aspects of the city. Every year, thousands of football fans visit for Hall of Fame events. Yet many leave without exploring the city's historic downtown, museums, restaurants, or cultural attractions. Outside Ohio, Canton is often known only for football, while within the state it is sometimes remembered more for economic struggles than for its achievements. Local officials have invested heavily in revitalization projects over the past decade. Downtown redevelopment, small business incentives, infrastructure improvements, and tourism initiatives have all contributed to renewed optimism. Historic buildings have been restored, new housing developments have appeared, and community organizations continue working to improve quality of life throughout the city. Even so, Canton still carries a mixed reputation. To some, it represents football history and community pride. To others, it symbolizes another Rust Belt city still recovering from industrial decline. That contrast continues to shape how people across Ohio view the city today. Number 6. Springfield. Springfield has become one of Ohio's most talked about cities in recent years, but not always for reasons its residents appreciate. Historically, Springfield was an important manufacturing center known for producing farm equipment, industrial machinery, and automotive components. Major companies provided stable employment for generations, helping the city develop into one of Western Ohio's strongest industrial communities. As manufacturing declined throughout the late 20th century, Springfield experienced significant economic changes. Factory closures eliminated thousands of jobs, unemployment increased, and many younger residents left in search of better opportunities elsewhere. Like numerous Midwestern cities, Springfield faced shrinking tax revenues, declining population, and the difficult task of reinventing its local economy after decades of dependence on manufacturing. Crime and drug-related issues contributed heavily to Springfield's negative image. Local authorities have spent years addressing problems involving illegal narcotics, property crime, and violent incidents in certain neighborhoods. Although crime has fluctuated over time and many residential areas remain peaceful, media coverage has often focused on the city's most serious incidents, reinforcing public perceptions that Springfield struggles with widespread safety concerns. In recent years, Springfield unexpectedly became the focus of national political debates surrounding immigration and demographic changes. Viral claims, social media discussions, and intense political coverage brought the city unprecedented attention. While many of the most sensational stories were disputed or lacked reliable evidence, the constant national spotlight dramatically changed how people across the country viewed Springfield. Residents frequently expressed frustration that their hometown was being discussed by millions of people who had never actually visited the city. This sudden attention placed enormous pressure on local officials, businesses, and community organizations. They found themselves responding not only to long-standing economic challenges, but also to widespread public misconceptions created through online discussions. Many residents emphasize that Springfield is a diverse community where most people simply want safe neighborhoods, good schools, and stable employment opportunities. Despite its challenges, Springfield has invested in downtown redevelopment, historic preservation, and attracting new industries. The city is home to beautiful parks, impressive historic architecture, and educational institutions that continue serving the region. Local festivals, arts organizations, and small businesses contribute to a growing sense of optimism about the future. Nevertheless, Springfield's reputation remains complicated. For some Ohioans, it represents another city recovering from industrial decline. For others, recent national headlines have become the first thing they associate with the community. Regardless of the reason, Springfield continues to rank among the state's most controversial and frequently criticized towns, making it a fitting entry as we move closer to the top 5. Number 5. Steubenville. Steubenville's reputation has been shaped by a combination of economic decline, public scandals, and decades of difficult headlines. Situated along the Ohio River near the Pennsylvania border, the city was once a powerhouse of the American steel industry. For much of the 20th century, steel mills provided thousands of stable jobs, supporting a thriving downtown filled with department stores, restaurants, theaters, and locally owned businesses. Families expected their children to find employment in the mills just as previous generations had done, creating a strong sense of community built around industrial success. That prosperity began fading as the American steel industry declined. Mill closures and workforce reductions eliminated many of the jobs that had supported the local economy for decades. Young residents increasingly left in search of employment elsewhere, businesses closed, and population steadily decreased. Empty commercial buildings and aging neighborhoods became visible reminders of the city's economic struggles. Like many former industrial towns, Steubenville faced the enormous challenge of rebuilding an economy after losing the industry that had defined it for generations. The city's reputation suffered a major blow in 2012 when a nationally publicized sexual assault case involving high school students attracted enormous media attention. News organizations from across the United States descended on Steubenville, covering every stage of the investigation and court proceedings. Social media discussions, television documentaries, and national debates about sports culture, accountability, and justice placed the town under an intense spotlight unlike anything it had experienced before. For millions of Americans, Steubenville became known almost entirely because of that single case. Residents have often expressed frustration that one tragic event came to define their hometown in the eyes of outsiders. Many point out that the vast majority of people living in Steubenville had no connection to the crime, yet continue dealing with the lasting stigma attached to the city's name. Community organizations have since worked to promote youth programs, improve public safety awareness, and encourage positive civic engagement. But changing a reputation formed through nationwide media coverage remains an incredibly difficult task. Beyond the headlines, Steubenville possesses a rich historical heritage. It is the hometown of entertainer Dean Martin and features historic churches, museums, and riverfront scenery that reflect its long history. Local festivals continue attracting visitors, and preservation efforts aim to protect the city's architectural character. Residents frequently emphasize these positive aspects when discussing their community, hoping to shift attention away from older controversies. Despite ongoing redevelopment efforts and the dedication of local citizens, Steubenville continues to carry a reputation that extends far beyond Ohio. Mention the city's name almost anywhere in the country, and many people immediately recall the infamous case before thinking about its industrial history or resilient community. That lingering association has made Steubenville one of Ohio's most criticized towns. Number 4. Dayton. Dayton holds an extraordinary place in American history. It was the hometown of the Wright brothers, became a center for aviation innovation, and played a major role in the nation's manufacturing economy for decades. Companies involved in automotive production, aerospace technology, and industrial manufacturing provided employment for generations of workers, helping Dayton grow into one of Ohio's largest and most influential cities. The city was widely respected for its engineering talent, research institutions, and contributions to technological progress. However, like many industrial centers throughout the Midwest, Dayton experienced significant economic decline as manufacturing jobs disappeared. Factory closures and corporate restructuring eliminated thousands of positions that had supported middle-class families for decades. As employment opportunities declined, many residents relocated to other cities, leading to population loss, reduced tax revenue, and increasing pressure on public services. Some neighborhoods experienced prolonged disinvestment, leaving behind vacant properties and aging infrastructure that became visible symbols of economic hardship. Crime has also played a significant role in shaping Dayton's public image. Certain neighborhoods have struggled with violent crime, gang activity, and illegal drug distribution, leading to periods where homicide rates attracted national attention. While crime is concentrated in specific areas rather than spread evenly throughout the city, many outsiders mistakenly assume the entire community faces the same level of danger. Residents frequently point out that numerous neighborhoods remain safe, vibrant, and filled with active community organizations working to improve local quality of life. Dayton was also deeply affected by the opioid epidemic, with local hospitals, law enforcement agencies, and emergency responders facing enormous challenges during the height of the crisis. The city received national attention as communities across Montgomery County dealt with increasing overdose deaths and strained healthcare resources. Although extensive recovery programs and prevention initiatives have since been implemented, those difficult years continue influencing public perception. The city faced additional hardship in 2019, when a devastating tornado outbreak caused widespread damage across the region. Before recovery efforts were fully underway, Dayton was struck again by tragedy when a mass shooting occurred in the Oregon District Entertainment area later that same year. These back-to-back disasters placed the city in national headlines for heartbreaking reasons, reinforcing an already difficult reputation. Yet despite everything, Dayton has shown remarkable resilience. The city continues investing in technology, healthcare, education, and aerospace industries. The National Museum of the United States Air Force attracts visitors from around the world, while universities and research centers contribute to innovation and economic growth. Downtown redevelopment has introduced new restaurants, apartments, and entertainment venues, creating renewed optimism about the city's future. Still, Dayton remains a city with two very different reputations. Residents see innovation, history, and determination, while many outsiders remember crime statistics, economic decline, and national tragedies. That contrast keeps Dayton high on lists of Ohio communities that continue battling outdated or incomplete public perceptions. Number 3. Cleveland. Few cities in America have experienced as dramatic a transformation in public reputation as Cleveland. Once one of the nation's largest and wealthiest industrial cities, Cleveland became famous for its steel mills, shipping industry, automotive manufacturing, and bustling port on Lake Erie. During the first half of the 20th century, hundreds of thousands of workers fueled an economy that ranked among the strongest in the country. Grand theaters, luxury department stores, impressive skyscrapers, and thriving neighborhoods reflected the city's immense prosperity. Everything began changing during the second half of the century. Manufacturing jobs gradually disappeared, suburban expansion accelerated, and population declined dramatically. Cleveland lost hundreds of thousands of residents over several decades as factories closed and businesses relocated. Entire neighborhoods experienced abandonment, while many once busy commercial districts struggled to survive. Economic hardship affected countless families, and the city's financial difficulties eventually became national news. Perhaps no event damaged Cleveland's reputation more than the environmental disaster involving the Cuyahoga River. Decades of industrial pollution became so severe that sections of the river famously caught fire multiple times, with the 1969 fire receiving worldwide attention. Images of a burning river became symbolic of America's industrial pollution problems and embarrassed the city on an international scale. Although the river has since undergone one of the country's most remarkable environmental recoveries, the old story remains deeply connected to Cleveland's identity. Crime has also contributed significantly to Cleveland's image. Over the years, the city has faced challenges involving violent crime, car thefts, gang activity, and property offenses in certain neighborhoods. National crime rankings and frequent media coverage reinforced perceptions that Cleveland was an unsafe place. even though many suburban communities and revitalized downtown districts have experienced significant improvements. Like most large metropolitan areas, crime varies dramatically from one neighborhood to another, but outsiders often judge the city as a whole. Sports heartbreak has even become part of Cleveland's cultural identity. For decades, fans watched championship opportunities slip away in dramatic fashion, giving rise to the city's reputation as one of America's most unlucky sports towns. Although recent championships have helped ease that narrative, the stereotype still appears regularly in popular culture and late-night comedy. Residents are quick to remind critics that modern Cleveland is far different from the city described in old headlines. World-class medical institutions, a nationally respected art scene, major universities, professional sports, waterfront redevelopment, and thriving entertainment districts have transformed large portions of the city. Attractions like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Playhouse Square, and a revitalized downtown continue drawing millions of visitors every year. Even with these remarkable improvements, Cleveland remains one of Ohio's most polarizing cities. Supporters view it as a resilient comeback story, filled with culture and opportunity, while critics continue focusing on decades-old stereotypes involving crime, pollution, and industrial decline. That powerful divide in public opinion is exactly why so many locals say outsiders misunderstand Cleveland more than almost any other city in the state, and why it lands at number 3 on this countdown. Number 2. Cincinnati. Cincinnati is one of Ohio's largest and most historic cities, yet it has also developed a reputation that sparks strong opinions both inside and outside the state. Located along the Ohio River, the city grew into a major center for commerce, manufacturing, finance, and transportation during the 19th and 20th centuries. Its impressive architecture, historic neighborhoods, and thriving business district helped Cincinnati become known as the Queen City. Companies headquartered here created thousands of jobs, while cultural institutions, universities, and professional sports teams gave the city national recognition. Despite its success, Cincinnati has spent decades battling criticism over crime, neighborhood inequality, and political divisions. While many areas such as Hyde Park, Mount Lookout, and parts of downtown are considered desirable places to live, other neighborhoods have struggled with violent crime, gang activity, poverty, and underinvestment. High-profile shootings and police investigations frequently receive extensive media coverage, shaping public perception far beyond the city limits. One event that significantly affected Cincinnati's reputation occurred in 2001 following the police shooting of an unarmed black teenager, Timothy Thomas. The incident led to several days of civil unrest, drawing national attention and raising serious discussions about policing, racial tensions, and community trust. Although city leaders introduced reforms and community programs in the years that followed, those events remain one of the defining moments in Cincinnati's modern history. Traffic congestion has become another frequent complaint among both residents and visitors. Interstate bottlenecks, aging bridges crossing the Ohio River, and ongoing construction projects often create frustrating commutes. Drivers regularly rank certain sections of Interstate 75 and Interstate 71 among the most stressful roads in the region, adding another reason some people criticize the city. Cincinnati has also developed a reputation for having neighborhoods with dramatically different living conditions. Within a relatively short drive, someone can move from luxury homes and thriving business districts to areas facing significant economic hardship. This contrast has fueled debates about housing, education, public investment, and economic opportunity for many years. Yet focusing only on these problems tells only part of Cincinnati's story. The city boasts one of the nation's finest collections of historic architecture, a vibrant arts community, successful professional sports franchises, respected universities, and a growing technology sector. Over the Rhine, once considered one of the country's most troubled neighborhoods, has undergone extensive redevelopment, attracting restaurants, entertainment venues, and new residents. The riverfront has been transformed into an attractive destination filled with parks, museums, and recreational spaces that draw millions of visitors each year. Many Cincinnati residents argue that outsiders unfairly judge the city based on isolated incidents or outdated stereotypes. They point to strong local businesses, nationally recognized hospitals, excellent food culture, and a growing economy as evidence that Cincinnati deserves far more praise than criticism. Nevertheless, because of its highly publicized social issues, crime concerns in certain neighborhoods, and sharp economic contrasts, Cincinnati remains one of Ohio's most debated and frequently criticized cities. Number 1. Lorain. Topping this list is Lorain, a city whose reputation has been shaped by decades of industrial decline, economic hardship, and persistent negative headlines. Located on the southern shore of Lake Erie, Lorain was once one of Ohio's most important steel-producing communities. Massive steel mills dominated the local economy, employing thousands of workers and supporting generations of middle-class families. During its peak, Lorain's waterfront bustled with commercial shipping, manufacturing, and industrial activity that created prosperity throughout the city. When the steel industry contracted, Lorain suffered enormous economic consequences. Layoffs eliminated thousands of jobs that had supported the local economy for generations. Many residents relocated in search of employment, causing the city's population to decline steadily over several decades. Businesses that depended on industrial workers also struggled, leaving behind vacant storefronts and underused commercial districts. Entire neighborhoods experienced slower growth, while aging homes and infrastructure became increasingly difficult to maintain. Crime concerns further contributed to Lorain's negative reputation. Although many neighborhoods remain quiet and family-oriented, the city has periodically dealt with violent crime, property offenses, drug trafficking, and gang-related activity that attracted media attention. Like many former manufacturing communities, economic hardship often created additional social challenges that local officials have worked for years to address. Residents also point to persistent poverty as one of the city's biggest obstacles. Lower household incomes, aging housing stock, and limited economic opportunities have made revitalization an ongoing challenge. Community leaders have consistently emphasized attracting new employers, supporting small businesses, and encouraging redevelopment projects designed to diversify the local economy beyond traditional manufacturing. Despite these difficulties, Lorain possesses remarkable natural beauty that many outsiders rarely hear about. Its location along Lake Erie provides scenic beaches, marinas, parks, and one of Ohio's most recognizable lighthouses. The city has a rich multicultural heritage, with strong Puerto Rican, Hispanic, Eastern European, and other immigrant communities contributing to local traditions, festivals, and cuisine. Residents often describe Lorain as a welcoming city whose greatest strength has always been the resilience of its people. In recent years, redevelopment efforts have focused on improving the downtown waterfront, restoring historic buildings, expanding recreational opportunities, and attracting tourism. Investments in public spaces and local businesses have helped create cautious optimism about Lorain's future, even as economic challenges remain. Still, for many Ohioans, Lorain's name continues to evoke images of abandoned factories, struggling neighborhoods, and industrial decline. The city's reputation has proven incredibly difficult to shake, despite years of progress and community investment. That combination of economic hardship, crime concerns, population decline, and lasting public perception places Lorain at number 1 on this countdown. As always, rankings like these are based on public reputation, historical controversies, recurring criticism, and long-standing perceptions, not on the worth of the people who live there. Every community on this list is home to hard-working residents, proud local traditions, and ongoing efforts to build a better future. Today's reputations can change, and many of these Ohio towns are working every day to prove that they are far more than the headlines that made them famous.